Hello and welcome to ARIRANG News. It's Tuesday, November 18th here in Seoul. I'm Hyun-kyung. We begin today with North Korean high-ranking official Choe Ryong-hae's trip to Russia. He has started his 8-day visit as regime leader Kim Jong-un's special envoy. Observers are carefully watching for when and whether Choe will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Hwang Ji-hye has our top story.
Choe Ryong-hae, a high-ranking member of North Korea's ruling Workers' Party and one of leader Kim Jong-un's closest aides, gets on a plane to Russia. High-level officials see him off at the airport.
Choe Ryong-hae has left Pyongyang to visit Russia on a special plane on November 17th.
After being forced to return to the North Korean capital due to an unspecified problem with the plane, Choe arrived in Moscow in the early hours of Tuesday morning local time. During his 8-day visit to Russia, there's speculation Choe might hold talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin and pass on a personal letter from Kim Jong-un. If that meeting materializes, eyes will turn to whether Choe's trip could lead to a bilateral summit between Kim and Putin.
A North Korea-Russia summit will mark an important event, one that signifies Pyongyang's deteriorating relationship with its traditional ally, China. It would also be a clear demonstration of the North's discontent over Chinese President Xi Jinping visiting Seoul without making any plans to go to Pyongyang.
North Korea's nuclear program is also expected to be on the table during Choe's visit, along with ways to boost economic and political ties between the two countries. The South Korean government is also closely watching how the visit proceeds.
It looks like North Korea is actively engaging in diplomatic activities, while the international community strengthens its cooperation over the North's human rights issues and nuclear program. But the specific purpose of Choe's visit and its potential achievements remain unclear.
Analysts say the visit also gives Russia a way out of its deepening diplomatic isolation as it continues to be blamed for its role in the Ukraine crisis. Hwang Ji-hye, ARIRANG News.
The United Nations Third Committee, in the meantime, will decide whether to adopt the strongest resolution to date regarding North Korea's human rights situation. The decision will be made on Tuesday, New York time. Our Hwang Sung-hee has more.
The UN General Assembly's Third Committee will vote on a resolution on North Korea's human rights violations in New York on Tuesday. The resolution has been adopted by the United Nations every year since 2005, but North Korea is especially perturbed about this year's. That's because it calls for the referral of the North Korean leadership to the International Criminal Court for the first time. The Third Committee is expected to pass the resolution by an overwhelming margin, after which time it would be put to a vote at a plenary UN Assembly next month. But one variable could be Cuba's efforts to block the EU-led resolution. Cuba submitted its own version of the resolution last week that removed the ICC referral. Instead, it recommends that the international community resolve the issue through dialogue. If Cuba's resolution is adopted, it would replace the current strongly worded version. But a senior official at South Korea's foreign ministry says that's doubtful. He put the possibility of the Cuban version getting passed at below 10%, saying some African countries would abstain rather than vote against the EU version, since it deals with North Korea, the world's most notorious human rights violator. The resolution has no binding power, but if adopted, would certainly help press the UN Security Council to address North Korea's human rights abuses more strongly, and perhaps spur them to push for a referral of the regime to the ICC. Hwang Sung-hee, ARIRANG News.
The prolonged suspension of the joint inter-Korean Mount Kumgang tourism project has caused the South Korean operator some $850 million in losses. South Korea's Hyundai Asan says it's been maintaining an emergency management system since the halt of the tours 6 years ago, and that if the two Koreas agree, it could start accepting tourists again within 2 months. The project began exactly 16 years ago today, but was stopped in 2008 after a South Korean tourist was shot dead by a North Korean soldier at the location. Now, to commemorate the 16th anniversary of the project, Hyundai Group chairwoman Hyun Jong-un left for North Korea this morning to attend a ceremony. It's not known whether she held talks with North Korean officials. A set of 3 bills called the Seoul Ferry bills have been approved by the cabinet this morning. They will bring many changes, including a special committee to investigate the sinking and create 2 new government organizations. Kim Jong-un reports.
The cabinet passed 3 special bills on this Tuesday, all related to April's ferry disaster. The first is the so-called Seoul Ferry Law, which sets up a special investigative committee composed of 17 members that will be launched on January 1st. For a period of up to 18 months, the committee will look into the causes of the ferry disaster that killed or left missing 304 people. They will have the legal authority to summon witnesses and appoint a special prosecutor who will investigate and indict those found responsible for the tragedy. The second law passed at Tuesday's cabinet meeting is the so-called Byung-won Law, named after the deceased de facto owner of the Seoul ferry. The law gives the government more authority to go after and confiscate illegally obtained wealth by individuals or companies. It states that the perpetrator and third parties involved in an unlawful act can be subject to asset seizures. The law is aimed at holding individuals or companies accountable for tragedies that cause a great number of casualties. The last law passed is the amended Government Organization Act, which sets up 2 new ministries under the Prime Minister's office. One will oversee disaster and safety management. The other will oversee government personnel matters and lead reforms of public offices. The 3 special laws are aimed at making Korea a safer place to live and punishing those found responsible for lax safety management. Kim Jong-un, ARIRANG News.
And the presidential office was quick to nominate the chiefs of the 2 soon-to-be-established organizations that have been set up under the new law. President Park Geun-hye has tapped a former Navy Admiral Park In-yong to head Korea's new safety ministry. He's also the former deputy chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The presidential office cited Park's insights and capabilities to manage an organization as reasons for the appointment. As for the ministry's second-in-command, President Park tapped Lee Sung-ho. He's currently the Vice Security and Public Administration Minister. Lee's leadership in a 2011 operation to save a Korean tanker and its crew that were seized by Somali pirates in the Gulf of Aden was noted. Also, the president named an expert from the private sector to head the new Personnel Management Agency. And now on to the latest in the Seoul ferry trial. All 15 crewmen of the sunken ferry, including the captain Lee Jun-seok, have appealed their guilty verdicts for escaping the ferry before saving the passengers in the deadly sinking. The Gwangju District Court says Lee submitted a request for an appeal with the court, while some of the other crew members finished the process late last week. Lee was sentenced to 36 years in prison, and 14 crew members were given jail sentences ranging from 5 to 30 years. State prosecutors who had demanded the death penalty for the captain also filed an appeal last week, calling the ruling regrettable. More than 300 people died or went missing when the ferry capsized in waters off Korea's southwestern coast on April 16th. With Japan's economy reportedly fallen back into recession, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe may call for a snap election to push ahead with his economic and political agendas. Japanese media outlets say the announcement will be made sometime today. Song Ji-sun tells us more.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is facing the most serious political crisis since he took office nearly 2 years ago with a pledge to revive the economy. The talk from April's sales tax hike from 5 to 8% was high and immediate. The Japanese economy contracted for 2 consecutive quarters, smacking of a recession that followed a consumption tax hike in the late 1990s. Abe is reported to be seeking a delay in the scheduled second sales tax increase, given the very uncertain growth prospects in Japan and the rest of the world. Under the current plan, tax on all goods and services will rise to 10% over 18 months. Japanese media have reported Abe will make an announcement on Tuesday that he will delay the second tax increase and call a snap general election in mid-December to renew his mandate to govern. The lower house is expected to be dissolved as early as Wednesday. An election is not technically necessary to modify the tax plan, as Abe's Liberal Democratic Party is in firm control of both houses of the national legislature, but the Prime Minister is more likely seeking a fresh endorsement of his Abenomics platform and his other policies. Abe also aims to restart the nation's nuclear power plants, all of which have been offline since last year, and proceed with legislation to expand the role of Japan's military, following his decision to reinterpret Japan's pacifist constitution. Song Ji-sun, ARIRANG News.
Now, fines imposed by foreign antitrust watchdogs since 2010 on Korean companies for price fixing stand at $1.5 billion. That's according to data released by Korea's Fair Trade Commission. The amount represents nearly half of the penalties that Korean firms have been ordered to pay since 1996, when the Commission started collecting data. The penalties include a ruling by the European Union in 2012 ordering LG Electronics and Samsung SDI to pay $630 million and $190 million, respectively, for colluding to dominate the cathode ray tubes market used in making TV screens. A hurdle often stated for the full commercialization of electric vehicles is battery technology. But a team of Korean researchers may have inched closer to overcoming that hurdle with a new type of battery. Kim Ji-hyun has more.
A group of Korean researchers has developed lithium-ion batteries that charge 7 times faster than conventional ones. A team of researchers from the Department of Chemical Engineering at Pohang University of Science and Technology made the batteries by exploiting inorganic materials such as silica and titanium. This is different from the traditional method of lining up various templates of colloidal crystals and Black Hawk polymers consecutively, which requires more time and effort. The team says the method also provides a better alternative for the way we synthesize materials and could bring about changes in the way we store energy in the future due to its fast delivery of electrolytes and ions from its complex porous structures. The research team says it's now working on applying their academic findings in the real world and expects to commercialize the technology in 5 years. In the meantime, the post-sec research team is eyeing ways to increase the synthetic scale of its finding for mass production. Their work was first published in the Journal of the American Chemical Society last month. Kim Jong-un, ARIRANG News.
Now, research labs and local businesses together have found a way to secure a new source of revenue. Whatever it is, the production period is said to be relatively short and the applications are numerous. Paulie tells us all about it.
This laboratory develops clinical medicines derived from organic materials. Scientists here trying to create functional materials that are good for the body using components extracted from medicinal herbs. Their ultimate goal is to develop new types of medicines, but 30% of the experimental substances they create end up being used as ingredients for new cosmetics. Not only does this keep the products from going to waste, but it's a boon for the lab. Compared to medicines and other health-related products, cosmetics can be made in a relatively short period of time and have several applications.
Cosmetics bring greater rewards and have more growth potential than medicinal products as they take less time to develop.
The lab developed a functional material that was distributed to 10 local mid-sized firms, which produced sales of $21 million last year alone. And sales are expected to grow 13% this year. Korean cosmetics and skincare products have been drawing attention worldwide for their high quality and power to improve the appearance, with a number of Korean cosmetic brands having entered the Chinese market.
We want to promote the high quality and function of Korean cosmetics by allowing Chinese customers to experience and use the products firsthand.
These days, many local mid-sized companies are benefiting from the transformation of functional substances into cosmetics, allowing the companies to expand their business around Korea and beyond. Paul Yi, ARIRANG News.
Bringing you the fresh updates from stories breaking in Korea and abroad. We give you a bigger and better picture of the world. Join Hyun-kyung live from Seoul. Every weekday, only on ARIRANG.
America's top diplomat says Islamic State militant groups are wrong to think that the U.S. is intimidated by their actions. This as efforts to identify Western individuals shown to be killing captured prisoners in another propaganda video continue. Connie Lee has this report.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry had some strong words for Islamic State militants.
Well, let us be clear. We are not intimidated. You are not intimidated. Our friends and partners are not intimidated. ISIL is very, very wrong.
The statement at a Washington Foreign Policy Forum on Monday comes a day after the White House confirmed the terrorist group beheaded another American, this time 26-year-old aid worker Peter Kasig. Kasig's parents also spoke out on Monday and asked for privacy as they take time to mourn, forgive, and heal.
Our hearts are battered, but they will mend. The world is broken, but it will be healed in the end. And good will prevail, as the one God of many names will prevail.
Meanwhile, Western intelligence officials are now trying to identify the foreign jihadists seen in the latest propaganda video. The video, which also shows the beheading of 18 Syrian prisoners, differs from other videos previously released by IS. This one clearly shows the faces of the fighters and reveals how the group has attracted a good number of foreigners from around the world. It's believed that British and French nationals are among the militants seen killing the captured soldiers. British intelligence officials are looking into 2 British men, with one being 20-year-old Nasser Muthana, while French officials have identified one of the militants as 22-year-old Maxime Hauchard. According to a human rights monitoring group, IS militants have executed nearly 1,500 people in Syria over the last 5 months. Connie Lee, ARIRANG News.
A surgeon who had been flown into the U.S. from Sierra Leone for Ebola treatment has passed away. Dr. Martin Salia was undergoing treatment at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, which included a blood plasma transfusion from an Ebola survivor, as well as the experimental drug ZMapp provided by the manufacturer. Hospital officials said the 44-year-old resident of Maryland and citizen of Sierra Leone was already 13 days into the disease and in critical condition when he arrived on Saturday. He is the 10th Ebola patient to be treated and the second to succumb to the disease on American soil. Now, protesters took to the streets of Kenya's capital, Nairobi, on Monday in support of women's rights after a woman was attacked in broad daylight last week for no other apparent reason than wearing a miniskirt. Kim Min-ji has more.
Hundreds of people have taken to the streets of Nairobi with a message: the women have the right to wear what they want. Monday's rally was in response to an attack on a woman last week by a group of men who assaulted and stripped her naked for wearing a miniskirt. Protesters, many in miniskirts or crop tops, chanted "My dress, my choice," calling for an end to violence against women.
This is a journey of liberation. It's not just about dressing. It's about liberation of women from oppression.
The assault in Nairobi is hardly an isolated incident. Similar attacks on women for dressing indecently have also taken place in other Kenyan cities like Nakuru and Mombasa.
Arrest those people, they're criminals. Any person who touched that woman should be arrested and charged for sexual offenses. That was sexual assault.
Some, however, voiced opposition to the protest, saying women should be more responsible for what they wear.
Boys has got responsibility. You cannot go dressing anyhow, doing whatever you do. We have to be responsible as women. No. You can't show us your buttons.
Kenya's deputy president has condemned the attack as barbaric and called for those that carried it out to be arrested. But there are doubts about a breakthrough in the conservative country where sex crimes are rarely punished. Kim Jong-un, ARIRANG News.
Pope Francis has revealed that he will make his first trip to the United States next year with a stop at a triennial conference in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. The World Meeting of Families, which celebrates the importance of families, takes place in Philadelphia in September of 2015. Now, the city's mayor called it a joyous day, saying the visit will mark Philadelphia's largest event in its modern history. It will be Philly's second papal visit after Pope John Paul II celebrated Mass in the city back in 1979. If you are in Korea and are one of those people opting to stay indoors for your daily dose of entertainment because of the cold weather, you are in luck. Our Im Yoon-hee has a few performances heating up stages here in Seoul. Take a look.
After a much-anticipated wait, Korea is now staging the popular musical, Marie Antoinette. The musical tells a story of the infamous queen. At the time, Marie Antoinette's life gets entangled with that of a poor woman, and when the two lives collide, the drama begins to unravel, ultimately leading to the guillotine. The musical is critically acclaimed around the world, and now with a Korean cast, Marie Antoinette's story unfolds once again.
I think that many people will be sympathetic because of the inavailability of the foolish human nature.
A story of friendship, love, and secrets. Two bodyguards for South Korea's presidential office form an unlikely friendship and rivalry. The two are assigned to protect a mysterious woman, and when one friend disappears with her, the other is left in the dark for over 20 years. Then, an incident of déjà vu and the secrets start to show. The musical The Days mixes action, suspense, and a little love on the stage, and is back for another successful run.
I really like the songs written by Kim Jong-un. I always liked his songs, but I especially liked Through I Loved You, and wanted to somehow portray and honor that song on stage.
From romance to carefree days in the sun, the hot months of summer are a time for many to enjoy. And now those fun times come alive on the stage through the play A Hot Summer. It's a place where anyone's dreams come alive, but also a story that brings back sentimental feelings of summers of the past. It may be cold outside, but this play is sure to warm things up. Im Yoon-hee, ARIRANG News.
And that does it for this edition of our newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with more updates at 6 p.m. Korea time.